In this video I'm going to show you how to do square stitch. So for square stitch you need to pick up the number of beads for the entire width of the piece that you want to make. So I'm just going to pick up a short length for this. Leave yourself a long tail, as always. I like something to hold on to. And with this particular one I'm going to show you on the mat first. So for the second row you pick up your bead and you go beyond the first bead. You're working back towards the tail, but you go beyond the first bead and you pull that thread through, and then you come back through the bead you've just added. And then you do the same again. You pick up a bead, go beyond the next bead and come back through it. And then the thread sits between the beads that you've just put on previously and pull that through. It's a very thread hungry stitch, this one. And then again pick up the next bead, go beyond the next bead on your base row, come back through there, pull the thread across between the beads and come back through the one you've just added. It all looks very loose and wobbly at the moment, but it will come together at the end. So the same again from the last one. Bring your thread between your beads and come back through the one you've just added. And you'll see here that the beads sit on top of each other. If you want to reinforce the row, if your beads are very loose or your tension is very loose, just go back through the entire row and then you can just give them a little tweak and then back through the new row, and then you're ready to start your next row. Once you've done a few rows, you can see that it's quite obvious here. I've used a white thread and it's very obvious to see. So for square stitch I would use a colour of thread that is close to the beads that you're using. Unless of course you want the contrast and you want to be able to see the thread. And that's how to do square stitch. It's an easy process and it's a very strong stitch because of the number of passes through the beads. I'd like to show you now how to read a square stitch charted pattern. So here we have a charted pattern, and as you can see it's again another one that is on absolute straight lines, so it's an easy chart to read. Anything that's on a grid is fine. Much like the herringbone stitch that we showed in a previous video, you can use cross stitch patterns, knitting patterns, or you can get your coloured pens out and your graph paper and make your own designs. So here I have some samples I'd like to show you. So this one came from a knitting pattern, and these two bracelets are from the Beadworkers Guild Introduction to Beadwork Bracelets book. All of them are done with size 11 seed beads, and you can see how pretty they are. They drape quite nicely, and it's a very strong stitch, as I said before, because of the nature of how many times you pass through the beads.